M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. It was an electric scene on Monday, and the crowd is spirited tonight at the outset as the Baltimore Ravens come out onto the field ready to take on Peyton Manning and the Super Bowl champion Indianapolis Colts on NBC's Sunday Night Football. Al Michaels, John Madden, and Andrew Kramer, welcome to Baltimore, where the Ravens almost pulled it off on Monday night. Had the lead with 44 seconds to play before Tom Brady threw a touchdown pass. New England remains undefeated, and the Ravens went down to their 6th consecutive defeat after starting the season with a mark of 4-2. They were 13-3 last year, but right now 4 wins, 8 losses out of the playoff hunt. The Colts, meanwhile, started the season with 7 consecutive wins, then lost 2 straight to New England and San Diego, and despite a lot of injuries, have rebounded to win 3 in a row. They're 10-2. They're still minus Marvin Harrison, but in very good position to secure, at worst, the #2 playoff seed in the AFC behind New England. So, John, as the season now enters the final quarter and we go into the playoff season, what about the Colts? How do you assess their chances of repeating as the Super Bowl champs right now?
Well, you know, they always have a chance. I don't think they're the best team. I think right now the New England Patriots are the best team, but the Colts are going to be in the playoffs. And once you put them in the playoffs, as we know, anything can happen. I thought it was interesting last night talking to Peyton Manning, and he says we have to lower our expectations. Now, that's what a competitor would say because he knows he doesn't have Marvin Harrison. He has 2 young tackles. You can't do the same things that you do. You have to be more patient using those kinds of words. But to me, when you have Peyton Manning on your side, I would take him, and I would think that they can beat anyone, anytime.
Tonight they go against one of the best defenses in the league despite the mark of 4-8. We know about the Ravens, but the question I have tonight is you come off a loss the other night, that dispiriting loss at the end of the game. Did that give you confidence and energy, or do you think this team will come out flat tonight?
You know, it was funny. When I was watching the game Monday night, I thought, Jesus, is going to take everything out of these guys, and they're going to be flat. And I went to practice, and I watched them, and they were full of life. They were running around. They were saying all the right things, doing all the right things. And maybe there's something when your team is built around defense, and you have leaders like Ray Lewis, who we just saw, and Ed Reed, and these type of guys, tough guys that are always up. Maybe your team doesn't get down on those types of things. But I know this, that they better start off strong, because if the Colts come out and explode on them, it could be a long night.
And they'll have to do it minus their 2 starting corners. So it's Indianapolis coming into Baltimore. Ravens Colts on Sunday Night Football.
Of the National Football League.
Chilly night, M&T Bank Stadium, downtown Baltimore. Well, Andrea Kramer was in the Raven locker room just minutes ago when Brian Billick addressed the troops. What did he have to say, Andrea?
To be a fly in the wall. He told his team they don't think we can be as physical as we were last week. They think we're going to come up short after only 6 days since paying the Patriots. He said, make them pay the price. Be as physical as you can tonight, but make no mistake about it. This is Ray Lewis's team. He called them all together, held them in a circle, said his prayer. He then went to various players, like a Bart Scott, told them how to defend Joseph Adai. His message, let's go out and fight together for one cause as a family.
And they did that for almost the entire 60 minutes the other night. Now, the injuries are key. We talked about Marvin Harrison, who's been out for about half the season. Ryan Deem is the starting right tackle, and Raheem Brock, the starting defensive tackle, out. Todd Heap misses another game with a hamstring, and McAllister and Samari Rolle, who both played against New England last week, are out. McAllister with a knee, and Rolle, who practiced on Friday, has a shoulder injury, so he was a late scratch. And Reese Lloyd will be kicking off. He is their kickoff specialist. Matt Stover is their longtime place kicker. And T.J. Rushing to run it back. And here we go from Baltimore. A bouncing ball fielded up at the 15-yard line by Luke Lawton, a fullback who takes it up to the 35-yard line. And here come the Colts. And here's their offense.
Peyton Manning, Tennessee.
Joseph Adai, Louisiana State.
Reggie Wayne, VU.
Anthony Gonzalez, Ohio State University.
Dallas Clark, University of Iowa. Ben Utek, Minnesota.
Tony Hugo, Arkansas.
Ryan Rilja, Kansas State. Jeff Saturday, North Carolina.
Jake Scott, University of Idaho.
Charlie Johnson, Oklahoma State.
Johnson Johnson taking the spot of Dean. He's a second-year player. Corey Ivy and David Pittman are now the starting cornerbacks. And on first down, it's an inside handoff to Adai, who can't get out of the backfield. The Ravens swarming. Ray Lewis leading the charge. It'll be a loss of 1, and it'll be second down and 11.
I think you're always going to hear that when you watch a Raven game, is Ray Lewis swarming. I mean, that's, you're getting to the ball carrier is one thing, but Ray Lewis is such a good tackle. He's a guy that goes sideline to sideline, and when he gets his hands on you, you are going down.
Second and 11. Been very tough to run on the Raven defense this year. Defensively, they're allowing their opponents only 2.8 yards per carry. Now Manning to the air. His first pass of the night is complete. Caught by Ben Utecht. It'll be third down. Here's the Baltimore D.
Dwan Edwards, Oregon State.
Kelly Gregg, University of Oklahoma.
Hawking Oregon.
Jared Johnson, University of Alabama.
Ray Lewis, University of Miami.
Bar Scott, Detroit Southeastern. Terrell Suggs, Arizona State.
Corey Ivy, Oklahoma.
DeJuan Landry, Georgia Tech.
Ed Reed, the U.
David Pittman, Northwestern State.
Again, the two backup corners, and now Bart Scott is hurt. So the Ravens already depleted defensively. Scott gets hurt on the second play of the game. So an injury timeout, 1:05 into the contest.
Check this out. With this controller, your character will mimic your exact motions. See?
Convenient nonstop flights. It's like having your own company plane. By Coors Light cold activated bottle. When the mountains turn blue, your beer is cold. By Toyota, watch Toyota's line of scrimmage Sunday nights on NBC. And by Sprint, the official telecommunications service sponsor of the NFL. This is the NFL at Sprint speed. Second, we went to commercial. Bart Scott got up, looked like he was kicked in the thigh. Appears to be okay, but has to come out for at least one play. So right now, 7 defensive backs are in the game in this set. Third down and 3 for the Colts on the game's opening drive, and they convert as Anthony Gonzalez, their first-round draft choice out of Ohio State, makes the catch and has it up at the 48-yard line. So we'll see Bart Scott now come back into the game, but a lot of mixing and matching tonight, John.
Right, and that was that defense they call speed, where they have only one defensive lineman in there, and then one defensive lineman, 3 linebackers, 7 defensive backs. But the defensive backs on third down played too soft.
Now Adai over the right side, and again, that defense so tough against the run pushes him back. Olote Nata making the tackle, and Joseph Adai looked a little bit better, John, earlier in the season than he does right now. He's been dinged, and he's got a couple of minor ailments, shoulder, stomach, and all of the rest, with Nata now down for the Ravens. So another early injury for Baltimore as we take another injury timeout. 2nd and 8 when we come back. Field appeared to have gotten stepped on by his teammate Terrell Suggs, but he is up. Scott is back in the game, but an ominous beginning for Brian Billick's team, already minus Roll and McAllister, their 2 starting corners, against Peyton Manning. 2nd down and 8 now with the ball at the 50-yard line. This is the game's opening drive in Baltimore. Off the fake. Manning stepping away from the pressure and then throws incomplete, intended for Gonzalez on the run, and Terrell Suggs came in and put the pressure on Manning right through the rookie left tackle Tony Ugo on the play.
I think that's one of the reasons that Peyton Manning says that he has to do different things. I mean, you have a rookie out there and you have a veteran like Suggs. He is going to have his way with that rookie tackle, a big part of this game. Terrell Suggs is a very, very good pass rusher. Excellent quickness.
Last week, in this situation, they really excelled. We'll see how they do here on a 3rd down and 8. And Manning throws, and that's caught by Gonzalez. So the #1 draft choice takes it to the 36-yard line. And he's a guy that they had hoped to work in the slot. He was going to be the #3 guy. But right now, he, in effect, has to play the Marvin Harrison role.
Right, and the thing, they had that speed defense, and they came on a blitz. Colts did a good job of picking it up.
Quick count. Of course, they run the no huddle, and Joseph Adai goes nowhere on the play. Up comes the corner, Derek Martin, the right corner, to make the stop.
See, that's the dilemma that the Ravens are getting in when they go to that sub defense, a speed defense, where they only have the one defensive lineman, 7 defensive backs. Then if you get a first down, then they have to get that defense off the field, and then Peyton Manning gets the Colts up, gives them a quick count, and runs the play.
Manning, a master at not letting you do what you want to do defensively. 2nd down and 9. 3.5 minutes into the game. Manning fires over the middle and off the hands of Clark. The pass a little bit behind him. It'll be 3rd and 9. The story on Nato. Let's go to Andrea.
Well, guys, he is in the locker room right now getting x-rays. He has a left knee sprain. He did walk in the locker room. Now, remember, they just brought up a practice squad player today. They have no depth with Justin Bannon, his backup, already out with a knee injury.
You know, we talked about Ray Lewis being so good inside as a middle linebacker. Kelly Gregg, the nose tackle, and Nada had a lot to do with it. I mean, they were very, very stout in the middle of that Raven defense.
Son of Buddy, Rex Ryan, the defensive coordinator. 3rd down and 9 out of the shotgun. Pressure is on. Manning feels the pressure beautifully and throws the pass on the money to Reggie Wayne for a touchdown. That was perfect. 3 guys come in black shirts. Manning feels them, takes a step and a half forward, and then threads the needle. David Pittman with the coverage on the play, playing in the Samari roll spot, and Indianapolis on the board just like that.
You know, you watch Peyton Manning move there, and they said they wanted to make him uncomfortable. They wanted to get him off his spot. That time they got him off his spot. He worked the pocket, and then if he's going to look for anyone deep, 90% of the time, it'll be that guy, Reggie Wayne.
Reggie Wayne with his 9th touchdown reception of the season, 34 yards on a 3rd down and 9. Peyton Manning with a touchdown. Reggie Wayne into the end zone on the game's opening drive. 7-0.
For every romantic moment, there's a way it can be interrupted.
Emergency home repair.
A surprise visit.
This time it's for charity, The Celebrity Apprentice. You'll see it on NBC Thursday night, the 3rd of January. Reggie Wayne went to, as he says, the U, meaning University of Miami. He was a teammate and roommate of Ed Reed, the great safety of the Baltimore Ravens. He scores. Manning has now thrown 299 career touchdown passes. Adam Vinatieri puts this one in the air, and it's fielded by Yamon Figurs, a speedy rookie from Kansas State, who has nowhere to roam and is taken down at the 26-yard line. And let's take a look at the Baltimore offense.
Kyle Bowler, California. Willis McGahee, you already know, University of Miami.
Ron McClain, the University of Alabama.
Mark Clayton, University of Oklahoma.
Derek Mason, Mumford High School.
Daniel Wilcox, GMC.
Jonathan Ogden, UCLA.
Jason Brown, Northern Advanced High School.
Mike Flynn, University of Maine.
Ben Grubbs, Auburn University.
Marshall Yonda, Iowa.
Yonda, a rookie, on 1st down. Kyle Bowler coming off a very good performance the other night. A screen goes nowhere as he hits Willis McGahee, who played with the Buffalo Bills up until last season, came over in a trade. Kyle Bowler, 1st-round draft choice as a rookie out of Cal in 03. He, like Peyton Manning, started as a rookie. Then he got hurt. Then he played all of 04. Then in 05 he got hurt. Then in 06 they brought Steve McNair in. McNair started this season. He got hurt. By the way, Steve is now on injured reserve. He had shoulder surgery, non-throwing, on his rotator cuff the other day. So it's Bowler's ball club the rest of the way. 2nd and 11. And this time it gives it to McGahee. But doesn't it always seem, John, as if Kyle Bowler, now in his 5th year, is always auditioning?
Yeah, right, and that's what they talk about, that it may be an audition these last 4 games, but I think that, you know, at some point you have to say that Kyle Bowler is probably a backup, and if the Ravens are really going to get ahead, at some point they're going to have to get a quarterback, you know, for the long run.
3rd down and 10. Bowler with Musa Smith now in the backfield, and he sends him split to the right. So it's an empty backfield here with a 4-man rush. He hangs in there, fires it over the middle, and incomplete, and a flag comes in. Almost picked off by Antoine Bethea. The pass was sailing And the flag is down at the 37-yard line, so our first call of the night.
Prior to the pass, illegal contact, 58, defense. 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's Gary Brackett, the middle linebacker. The call by the ref tonight, Walt Coleman.
And you're going to see number 58, Gary Brackett, right there. And that's the old 5-yard rule. That once a receiver gets beyond 5 yards, you can't bump him or touch him. But that's a situation that Kyle Bowler wants to stay out of, that 3rd and long. And to do that, you have to have success on these downs, 1st and 2nd down.
We're on a draw here, and a fumble. McGahee gives it up, and it is picked up by Marlon Jackson, who's inside the 20, and Jackson will set Indianapolis up at the Baltimore 12-yard line.
And that's what we were talking about before the game, you know, that if the Ravens are going to have a chance tonight, they have to get off to a good start. You know, if the Colts come out and hang a couple on them early, then that effect of last Monday night could really be something.
Robert Mathis will get credit for forcing the fumble. Number 98, there he is. Left arm gets in there. Ball comes loose. Jackson, the cornerback, picks it up, and Manning goes to work on a very short field at the 12.
Now, Robert Mathis is a defensive lineman that plays an awful lot like a linebacker. He does a lot of linebacker instinctive things. I think he's a heck of a player.
He used to be the other guy with Dwight Freeney, the big star. Freeney with a foot injury. He's on injury reserve, gone for the season. Manning throws. It's caught by Utek, and Utek has a first down and not a touchdown. They're going to rule him down at the 1-yard line, so he gets 11 yards, and it will be a 1st and goal at the 1.
I'll tell you, Peyton Manning something, isn't he? I mean, he just has this Raven defense confused, and he'll throw it to anyone now. I think this is part of lowering your expectations. You know, it's not always Marvin Harrison going deep now. It's your second tight end, Ben Utek, catching a big one.
They sent him out there. The corner missed the tackle initially, and then Johnson is able to hold off the touchdown, at least for the moment. Manning out of the gun. He'll give it to Adine. He will walk into the end zone. So the turnover leads to another touchdown. John, you talked about Baltimore needing to get off to a fast start tonight. Anything but. 9:09 to play and going on 14-0.
Yeah, and it was just too easy, wasn't it? I mean, some of those completions were easy, and watch this run. He gets in a shotgun, and then you think, okay, it's going to be a pass. You want to rush the passer. They run a draw to Joe Adai. No one touches him. You don't think you can do that against that Raven defense, get on the goal line and run up the middle as easily as Joe Adai just did.
Adam Vinatieri with his second extra point. So we play 5 minutes and 51 seconds. And the Indianapolis Colts try to go to 11-2 on top 14-zip. Giants won again today, beat Philadelphia, so they're 9-4, and they'll be taking on the Washington Redskins coming off their Thursday night win over Chicago. That's next Sunday night. Sunday Night Football here on NBC. The Giants and the Washington Redskins. And not far from Washington, we're in Baltimore, about 45 miles to the north. Adam Vinatieri to kick off with Indianapolis on top, 14-0. Yamon Figures skirts a would-be tackle at the 22 and then backs up and gets sworn. The flag is down. Indianapolis has had some problems with special teams, especially in that San Diego game we had a month ago, giving up a kickoff return and a punt return for a touchdown. But good job so far tonight on Figures. Walt Coleman with the call here.
Holding, 48, return team, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Tony Dungy trying to go to the playoffs for a 9th straight season, 6 at Indy. The Colt D through 13 weeks, 3rd in the league in yielding points per game and 2nd in yards per game, quite in contrast to last year when they were near the bottom of the pack in both categories, and then the defense really came together in the playoffs. They swing it out to the right side. That is caught by LaRon McClain, the fullback, who takes it up to the 23-yard line. And let's take a look at the Colt defense.
Josh Thomas, Syracuse University.
Keontae Dawson, Texas Tech.
Ed Johnson, Detroit Crockett Tech.
Robert Mathis, Alabama A&M.
Taiwan Hagler, Cincinnati.
Gary Brackett, Rutgers.
Freddie Keaho, San Diego State. Kelvin Hayden, University of Illinois.
Bob Sanders, Iowa.
Antoine Bethea, Howard University.
Marlon Jackson, Michigan.
And another injury for the Ravens. This is McLean, the fullback, who caught the pass and gained 9. So another injury timeout in Baltimore.
See anything?
No.
With a hamstring injury, he's missed several games this season. He'd be one of the 5 or 6 best tight ends in the league, so a vital part of their offense, and they miss him again tonight.
You know, that really hurts when you lose a Todd Heap, because you kind of lose the middle of your pass offense, and they can rotate and double your outside guys a lot easier.
McLean walked off the field. Justin Green takes his spot at fullback, but can't lead the way for the running back McGahee. That's Bob Sanders who comes up to make the stop. And we talked about Indianapolis last year and the fact that until the playoffs they weren't playing well defensively. One of the reasons was Sanders wasn't healthy. Once he got healthy, what a difference that made.
Yeah, and you see him coming up here, and he just plays right at the line of scrimmage. And then, as I was talking about Ray Lewis earlier, he does something about it. I mean, he can find that ball carrier, and he gets low and has great explosion and is really a super tackle.
5'8" and 206, and Boulder's going to sneak for a first down and appears to have it, getting across the 24 to the 25-yard line. You know, you talk about the Colts, and again having a very good year, obviously at 10-2, that's a first down. Only 4 of the 11 starters from last year's Super Bowl defense are starting tonight. So Tony Dungy doesn't want to hear about other teams' injuries. He has enough of his own, and yet his team right now primed to wind up with the number 2 seed behind New England.
Well, you know, he has 2 new corners, you know, Marlon Jackson and Kelvin Hayden, and he thinks that improves their defense and makes it more physical.
Bowler's going to run, and he'll get dragged down by his shirt after a gain of 7 by Keontae Dawson, number 96, a rookie out of Texas Tech, one of the new Colt defenders.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, we talk about Robert Mathis and, you know, how he gets up the field. But the other thing that he does is come back. I mean, that's what really impresses me, is you see Mathis get up, rush the passer, and then turn and catch him from behind.
And that's also Mathis, who is now down for the Colts.
Things won't always be the way you want it to be. But the bottom line, if you're ever able to come to a point in your life to where you understand the opportunity is why you fight.
Ray Lewis talking about his Ravens. We saw Mathis getting hurt, but he was able to go off under his own power. Mathis had limped off after the second play, came back, forced the fumble. Now he goes out again. And it will be 2nd down and 3. Jeff Charleston takes Mathis's spot along the front. McGahee now swinging to the outside with a little stiff arm there. And he was able to stiff arm Marlon Jackson out of the play and comes close to picking up a first down, and does, up to the 36-yard line.
And these Raven fans love this as a first down. And here Marlon Jackson comes in to tackle him. He just takes that right arm and stiff arms him right into the ground. I mean, that's the thing. You know, you have the ball in one hand, you use that other hand, to play off a defender. Sometimes it's a stiff arm, sometimes it's just a push with a hand, sometimes it's using the elbow.
McGahee comes off a 138-yard rushing performance. Now Bowler's going to take off again and gets decked at the 40-yard line. As he was going down, that was Gary Brackett. So he was giving himself up, but Brackett was there, and it was not ruled a late hit. The ball will be spotted at the 40-yard line, and it'll be 2nd down and 6.
Right, and they have to get yardage on first down, and they're going to eventually, have to get it through the air, because what the Colts are doing is they're bringing Bob Sanders up, or the 8th guy up in the box on 1st and 2nd down, or any running down. So they're going to have to get some passing in those running downs. Here he is now. So you have the 8th man up there playing like a linebacker.
He walked up into the box on the right defensive side, but this is McGahee now to the right side, where he's tackled by Sanders. So McGahee with a 13-yard gain. Willis in his 5th year at the University of Miami, 1st year with Baltimore.
Yeah, see, and here Sanders comes up to this side or the left side of the defense, and they run away from him. But Sanders is pretty good at that also. I mean, you know, when you run away from him, he has that speed, quickness, and explosion to still get to you. The Ravens did a good job of blocking that one up.
Now Antoine Bethea comes limping off. Matt Giordano takes his spot alongside Sanders at the 2 safety positions. Ball at the 45-yard line, and that's a 7-yard thrust over the right side for McGahee, taking it inside the 40 to the 38-yard line.
Right, and this is just about what the Ravens needed now. I know Brian Billick said the other day that he learned from the Jacksonville game, you know, to stay with the run, that you can run against this defense.
This looks like ER. There's an injury on every play. Now it's McGahee.
Yeah, but I mean, good blocking on that right side, and McGahee is their one runner, so they better keep him. But he was saying that Brian Billick told him, as long as you give me 3 yards, not 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, but if you give me at least 3 yards, we will continue to run tonight.
What you really want is you want a 3.34. That way you don't have a 3rd and 1.
Right. What you really want is Willis McGahee to be healthy and
right.
This limping off the field not being a serious injury.
Meanwhile, let's find out about Mathis on the other side. Andrea.
Well, guys, they're calling it a left knee sprain, and his return is questionable. I saw the trainers attending to him on the sidelines. They put a knee brace on his left knee, and he's walking around, so maybe he's going to try to head back in. He's got his helmet on, in fact.
Yeah, puts his helmet on. Here's how he got hurt. He got rolled on by his own teammate, Keontae Dawson. Meanwhile, Musa Smith is the backup to McGahee. The ball is at the 39. And fake to Smith. And then the interception by Gary Brackett, who's already into Baltimore territory. Bowler gets blocked out of the play. And then finally the tackle is made from behind the 20-yard line. So another turnover. The middle linebacker, Gary Brackett, tackled by Mason. And Indianapolis and Manning will have another short field.
You know, and that's where Gary Brackett is so good. You know, you say he's an undersized guy, exists to that, but he is a very good pass defender. He just gets back in those zones, reads the quarterback's eye, and gets a jump on it. See how he just got back there, read that, kind of bumped it to himself, and then took off. But he, as a middle linebacker, is a very, very good pass defender.
Pass was intended for Mason. That's one of the reasons right there for Baltimore's 4-8 record. It's never just one thing, but that turnover ratio is huge.
Reggie Wayne in the slot here on the right.
Manning throws, caught, a die, and that's touchdown pass number 300 for Peyton Manning.
This is way too easy for the Colts tonight. I mean, you think the Ravens will give them a fight on defense, and they sure aren't. I mean, they look like they're not even sure where to line up or who to cover. And if you don't cover, Peyton Manning's going to find him. You know, it's not one of those guys, oh, geez, there was a guy wide open there. Quarterback didn't see him. If there's a guy wide open, Peyton Manning will see him.
Well, Marino's mark once looked untouchable. Brett Favre now has that record. And Peyton Manning, who figures to play considerably longer than Favre with the age disparity, is the next guy in line for that mark eventually. 300 in his career. In his 10th season, Vinatieri with the extra point, 4 minutes to play, and it's 21-0.
U.S. Joseph Adai, he comes out to the right of the screen. Terrell Suggs he bumped him as he was rushing him, and then there was no one out there to cover him. I think that was one of those zone dog things, and no one got out there, and Joseph Adai, and again, he had Reggie Wayne in the slot over in the right, and that's where he was looking to go deep to Reggie Wayne, and then he came back to an uncovered Joseph Adai.
And on top of it, it starts to rain.
What did Brian Billick just say? Wow? I think he is being wowed upon.
Either wow or ow. So there it is. Brett Favre still going strong. Marino at 420. Then there's Tarkenton, and Manning has just tied Elway, so the next one puts him all alone in 4th place with Fran next up on the chart. 40 degrees and raining in Baltimore. The Ravens franchise coming in 1996. Of course, they wore the Cleveland Browns, but the colors and the name and the record stayed in Cleveland. It's the first time in the history of this franchise again since 96 they've allowed 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. Lamont Figures brings it up to the 28-yard line. Since 2000, when they won their Super Bowl, and they did it on the strength of a phenomenal defense, since that year, cumulatively, they'd be #1 in points allowed, but offensively, 19th in points, 25th in yards per game. Of course, the irony is that Brian Billick got the job as the head coach in '99 because of his great success as the offensive coordinator of the very potent Minnesota Vikings.
Right, and then he came in and inherited a great defense and never did get the offense really fixed because he never got the quarterback.
Now the handoff to Musa Smith. The irony is that Tony Dungy, noted for his defensive prowess, and of course that's Tony's pedigree, defense. Tony then comes to Indianapolis and inherits Peyton Manning and the offense, and then makes the defense good enough and winds up, of course, with the Lombardi Trophy last year.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, Tony Dungy has done a great job as a head coach because he came in and you know, kept the offense the way it is and fixed the defense. The defense is better. And by the way, Robert Mathis is back in the game now.
McGahee, meanwhile, is getting his ankle taped on the Ravens bench, and this is Musa Smith up to the 32-yard line. Smith in his 5th year out of Georgia. The update now on Bethea. We go to Andrea.
A busy night already on the Colts sideline. Bethea has a sprained right knee. They are calling his return questionable.
Thank you, Andrea Kramer, RN.
You know, we were talking about those 2 corners being physical on that Colt defense, but those 2 safeties, you know, we talked about Bob Sanders and what he does, you know, in the run and how tough he is, but Antoine Bethea is a tough guy too. So this is a very good tackling, aggressive secondary.
3rd down and 6. Boulder buys time and throws short, and that's a great tackle by who else? Bob Sanders. He's a lot like, you know, Troy Polamalu. You can't miss him. Same type of player. I mean, all of a sudden you look up and there's Sanders.
You know when he has, Al, he has short explosion. I mean, he gets underneath everything, and then in a real short period, right there, boom, he just explodes. And he's always underneath you. He's always in a power. His power will always beat your power because he even said last night, he said, you know, being short means that I have great leverage. And the biggest thing to me is he knows how to use it.
Absolutely. Uses it to his advantage on every play. Gets the leverage, and now you've got a block punt, and that's going to wind up out of the end zone. So Michael Coe comes in and blocks the punt, and that would be a safety. So 2 more points to make it 23-0 on the block punt by the backup cornerback and special teams guy, a rookie out of Alabama State who they drafted in the 5th round. Gets in and blocks the punt of Sam Cook.
You're going to see him. He's on the far right side there. He comes untouched. Usually, if the guy is that wide, he can't get there. I mean, if the punter gets a good snap and gets the ball off, that guy shouldn't be able to get there. I would have to say something is a little slow. Either the punter was slow or the snap didn't get back there as quickly or he had to make a move, because we used to do that and put a guy out there, and with Ray Guy, we'd be able to punt the ball, and that outside guy could never get there.
Well,
what the heck just happened? Holy moly. You kidding me?
I'm trying to find the saddlebags because we're going into them tonight. You know that.
The thing is, I mean, you expected the Ravens to come out here and, you know, I know they were disappointed on Monday night, but you kind of be fired up and their defense fired up. And instead of their defense being fired up, they look like they don't even know where to line up.
Right, and the 2 turnovers. And, you know, we talked about it's never just one thing. When somebody says, hey, what's wrong with the Ravens? Well, injuries affect every team, but that turnover margin, last year they led the league in plus minus. This year they're last in the league. And what that means, of course, is you're giving the ball away and you're putting even more pressure on your defense.
Yeah, and when you have, a great defense like that, then you have to have ball control and good running game and those types of things. And turnovers, as you say, become a big part of a team that is based on defense.
Tonight you've got the 2 turnovers, you have the block punt, now you've got a free kick by Cook from the 20-yard line. That's going to bounce at the 32-yard line. Now T.J. Rushing goes back to collect it. And he brings it back out to the 35-yard line. Mike Anderson makes the tackle. 23 points for the Colts in the first quarter. Second most in franchise history. And look at that, 27 points back in 1958 when they were here. And of course that year ended with the Colts playing the Giants in the NFL championship game, the first game that ever went to overtime, with Alan Amici scoring the winning touchdown in New York.
Doesn't Peyton Manning look like he always has everything under control?
Always. This is Joseph Adai. Interestingly, John, the last time we saw Manning, he threw 6 interceptions in a game. That was the night Dallas Clark was hurt, Harrison was gone in San Diego. Chargers ran the opening kickoff back for a touchdown, had a punt return for a touchdown, but he almost winds up winning the game and would have had Vinatieri made a 29-yard field goal at the end.
Right, and I think that's the thing that made him say we've lowered our expectations, and I think that he was expecting these guys to do the same things that they could do with Marvin Harrison, those guys were in there, and now he knows they can't, but he's doing other things with them.
Reggie Wayne will collect the pass and pick up a first down with 1:10 to play in the first quarter.
One thing they know, if someone's going to get deep on him, it's going to be Reggie Wayne. So look at the cushion that they give him. And if you play that far off and give him that first down, Peyton Manning and the Colts will take it. They'll take that all night.
Reggie Wayne, just a tremendous player. Of course, he's always played in the shadow of Marvin Harrison. Now he's the guy with Harrison out and having a Pro Bowl type of season.
Yeah, but this is the thing that the good teams at the end of the year make great adjustments.
73, offense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Right guard Jake Scott.
I mean, there are some teams that are going to get hurt at the end of the year and they just kind of go in the tank. And then there are some teams that get injuries and then they plug someone else in and they change their strategy. They do different kinds of things and they maintain their role. And to me, the Colts right now are the latter two.
Very definitely. I mean, they're minus Dwight Freeney, All-Pro, and Marvin Harrison, All-Pro.
And playing with these 2 young tackles are difficult.
And this is a guy making the catch. And Ray Lewis will chase him down and get him, but not before a guy picks up a first down, taking it all the way to the 40-yard line as the clock ticks down to the end of the period. 17 yards on the play.
I think Peyton Manning is relying more on Joseph Adai in the passing game than he ever has as running back.
2 catches tonight, 36 yards. That's the end of the first quarter with the score in Indianapolis 23, Baltimore nothing. And NBC Sunday Night Football will continue right after these messages.
Moss dropped the football. Now he throws it back to Brady. Downfield for Gaffney. Touchdown, Patriots!
Some of the highlights from today in the NFL. Wrapping up week 14 with Tony Dungy facing the sidelines. Patriots 13-0. Colts in prime position to go 11-2 and have a big leg up on Pittsburgh for that number 2 seed. Big difference, of course, between the 2 and 3 seeds going into the playoffs as a guy takes it on the first play of the second quarter in Baltimore. Al Michaels, John Madden, and Andrea Kramer. Indianapolis already up 23-0. 7-0.
I see Haloti Nata is back in there. We saw him, go out with a knee injury. They took him inside, and again, that's a big part of the inside of this Raven defense is Kelly Gregg and Nata, and they control the middle of the defense, and then Ray Lewis and Bart Scott in there behind them.
Second.
I was just saying, those guys right there are pretty tough inside, but the Colts just running away with the spoon here.
Lewis in pass coverage, and this is Clark. And Dwight Clark will take it all the way to the 23-yard line. Tackled by Derek Martin.
It was interesting here. They're putting Dallas Clark on the same side as Reggie Wayne. And so he's on the slot on the side. See, Reggie Wayne is the outside receiver here, so he's going to get most of the coverage. So they run him up the field, then they run Dallas Clark underneath. That's a pretty good combination.
Clark slot right. Wayne, as always, or almost always, wide to the left. The dive spinning, breaks out of a Ray Lewis tackle, takes it to the 17-yard line. The venerable one, Tom Moore, who says, hey, look, I'm just here. Peyton throws the touchdown passes. I throw the interceptions. All I have to do is give him concepts.
Right, and he does a great job. I mean, he's a guy who's been around, and he knows the offense. And he said something that we've talked about before is one thing when you've been working in a system and with an offense for a long time, when something goes wrong within a game, you know how to fix it. And I think that is very, very big.
Colts had a rare huddle.
Of course, having a quarterback like Peyton Manning is very, very good, too.
Yeah. Timeout taken by Indy. 23-0 Colts.
There'll come a day when you'll wonder.
And the officials just haven't come through.
Colts had to sneak out of town at night. It degrades a great tradition.
There was nothing left to take. They took everything. Everything that was in our desks, on our desks.
I doubt if Robert Irsay realizes tonight the full impact or the extent of his sin.
And to this day, they don't put Colts up on the board here. It's just Indy. Normally, it's the name of the team, not the city, but they won't even call them the Colts on the scoreboard. Second down and 4 now after the timeout. Manning throws. That'll be a first down. Gonzalez makes the catch. The rookie gets taken down at the 11. And those, of course, clips from a quarter century ago. John, and every time I can hear Howard Cosell used to love to say, under cover of darkness, the Baltimore Colts left town under cover of darkness. And they did. Moving vans at midnight and beyond, and off to Indiana they went. And there's no love lost between the people here and Indianapolis.
They may not look at Colts up there on the scoreboard, but they have to look at the score, don't they?
First and 10. And that's a tough pill to swallow as Joseph Adai will go into the end zone again for a touchdown. Joseph Adai with his second rushing touchdown. This one 11 yards.
Yeah, and this again is too easy. I mean, this is one thing that you don't do. I watched Dallas Clark here, 44. I mean, that's a guy. The slot has to make that block. I mean, if you're going to run that slant play outside there, that zone play, that is a big, big block by number 44, Dallas Clark. But having said that, that was still too easy. And this is a Raven defense that is just letting the Colts have their way with them.
3 touchdowns for Adai. The extra point by Vinatieri is good. And this crowd may want this team to move out of town. Early in the second quarter, 30-0 Indy.
During this matchup.
Want to see a weatherman fly? Watch Al Roker take to the skies for a daring flight on a hang glider. Today gets extreme this week on Today, right here on NBC. Inner Harbor. Baltimore, Joseph Adai with 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing and 1 receiving tonight. Reigning in Baltimore, already 30-0. And the kickoff fielded at the 6-yard line by Yamon Figures. Kansas State provides a spark here. Vinatieri gets forced out of the play, and Yamon Figures gets chased down, and they won't catch him. Touchdown. 94 yards for Yamon Figures. And we talk about those special teams problems with Indianapolis. Last time we had them on a Sunday night in San Diego on November 11th, they gave up a kickoff return for a touchdown to Darren Sproles and a Sproles punt return for a touchdown.
Remember, that's where Norv Turner thought that the Chargers had an advantage in the area that they could beat the Colts in because they thought they were a lot better, and most teams were better than the Colts at that time because their coverage teams had been deleted.
Stover for the extra point.
You usually get your return man into the wedge. Now watch, the wedge is coming right or up the middle. Figures starts with him and then cuts back away from him. So as the coverage team comes downfield, they're keying the wedge. So they start to run at the wedge. The wedge goes to the right, Figures goes to the left, and there's only 2 or 3 Colts out there, one being Vinatieri, who gets knocked down.
Little cutback running on a return. Cuts back off the wedge, and it's 30-7. And now the Colts over the last 2 years, 7 returns for touchdowns, and that doesn't even include the Devin Hester run back of the opening kickoff in the Super Bowl, which of course they withstood and eventually beat Chicago.
You know what wouldn't be a bad play right now?
Onside
kick. Yeah, because you have to change this thing around. You have to change the momentum. You have to get back in this somehow. What the heck? I mean, you just got 7, and now coming back with an onside kick, I think would be a pretty good call because you just look at the Colts return team, and they aren't expecting or waiting for one. They're not in any kind of onside prevent, so they're in the perfect locations to make an onside kick.
And Frank Gaines, the special teams coach, was just talking to Reese Lloyd. You saw a little conversation there, so that could be what they have in mind. The Colts, as John says, they have their regular people up front. So will Lloyd try an onside kick? No, he will not. Sends it up into the night rain, and T.J. Rushing fields at the 5-yard line. And brings it back down to the 24-yard line. Peyton Manning this season, 6 straight years with 10 or more wins. Dungy in his 6th year there. That's an NFL record. And when you look at the average in all of his starts, 26.3 points per game. That's the 2nd highest since 1950. Only one other quarterback who started 100 or more games compiled a record where he had more points per game than Manning. We'll give you one play to think about it. You got to go way back.
You just feel that he knows more about what he's doing than you know about what you're doing?
Definitely. From the 25. Gain of 3 for Adai. The answer would be Norm Van Brocklin, who with the Rams and the Eagles in his career averaged over 27 points a game. That would be number 1 on the list. Peyton would be number 2. We were telling this to Peyton last night. We said, Peyton, there are 82 guys on the list. Who do you think is 82nd? He says, oh, you mean the Arch? We go, well, yeah. Dad.
So we'll save that for a party at the end of the night of the party.
Dad averaged a little under 16 points a game. 2nd down and 8. And that pass is incomplete, intended for Anthony Gonzalez. The pressure was put on Manning by Terrell Suggs. It'll be 3rd and long.
Peyton was saying that Anthony Gonzalez asked him if he could have some deep patterns. He said, that he doesn't get the deep ones. He gets the ins, the outs, the hooks, all the shortstop, Reggie Wayne, gets all the deep stuff, and Peyton says, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I should probably do that. And then he goes, I'm not going to do that.
3rd down and 8. 3-man line. Play clock down to 4. And they keep it on the ground, and this is the guy who's going to get stopped up at the 30-yard line. So the Raven defense, given a little inspiration by that kick return for a touchdown, holds Indy right here and forces the first punt of the night.
Yeah, what he tried to do is take advantage of that speed defense we talked about, where they only have one defensive lineman in there and then all linebackers and secondary guys. Here's the only defensive lineman. So I'm sure they thought, okay, if they want to just play linebackers and defensive backs, we'll be able to run for a first down against it. Of course, they didn't get Nada blocked and tried to run right at the one defensive lineman.
Hunter Smith, Yamon Figures, who ran the kickoff back for a touchdown, is back, but they're going to let this one bounce, and that bounce is going to turn this into a pretty decent kick of 47 yards to the 23-yard line. 9:54 to go in the opening half. 30-7, Indianapolis. Willis McGahee comes back into the game. We saw him leave. He limped off, had his ankle wrapped. And now he comes back as the Ravens begin this drive from their own 23 after holding Baltimore or Indianapolis to a 3-and-out. And this will be McGahee, who sees immediate action, but not much of it. Gets taken down by Freddie Keaho. Here's Andrew.
See, Al, this is why you need to leave the MASH reports. To me, McGahee had a sprained left big toe that he had actually been nursing. He re-aggravated it, they taped it, and obviously he's back in there. As for fullback LaRon McClain, he had a bruised hip. They put him on a bike, but it tightened up. He is now in the locker room. And for defensive tackle Haloti Nagata, they taped up his knee. They just examined him in the locker room, his sprained left knee, and obviously we saw him back in on defense.
More injury reports in the first quarter and a half than at any time in history. Here's Bowler getting chased. And he just does go down in time because Gary Brackett had him in his sights. Oof.
Well, you're right. You could see that collision coming from up here. You went, is he going to get out of bounds? Is he going to get down before Brackett gets there? Here comes Bowler, and right here comes Brackett. And he did get down. And, you know, you have to do one of two things. You have to either get down and stay in bounds or get out of bounds and get down. Al Bowler on that play did both of them smartly.
He goes down late because he did get popped before when he slid to a hole in the middle of the field by Brackett.
He doesn't want this situation too much. It's 3rd and long. It's tough.
3rd and 10 under pressure, hit as he throws, and the pass is incomplete. Clemente Dawson, rookie out of Texas Tech, got him. Dawson, a rookie, and Ed Johnson, a rookie. You have 2 rookie defensive tackles in there, and of course Freeney is gone for the season. Talking about how Tony Dungy has been able to mix and match and make it all work.
Right, and this Raven offense isn't built for 3rd and 10, and you know their leading receiver Derek Mason hasn't seen a ball yet. I don't think.
I think the one pass intended for him was picked off.
And I just saw him walk off, and he looked like he was getting a little frustrated.
Sam Cook will do the punt. Flag is thrown. Short line drive kick. Handled at the 42-yard line. Flag for a hold against the receiving team, i.e. Indianapolis.
During the kick, holding 26, return team, 10-yard penalty from where the kick ended, first down.
Kelvin Hayden assessing the penalty after the play. 8:36 to play. There's the hold right there. We wouldn't lie to you.
Appreciate most about Peyton is his consistency. You have to really appreciate that about somebody who has as many awards and accolades that have come his way, that each and every week he still takes it personal and wants to play as well as he can.
Jeff Saturday talking about his man. 123 starts with Manning. Saturday was actually originally in the Ravens camp as an undrafted rookie out of North Carolina and cut by Ted Marchibroda, the head coach at that point. And this is a guy going nowhere, tackled by Haloti Ngata.
One thing, it's tough to get those guys blocked, Greg and Ngata. And you just watch Ngata here. I mean, he just gets a run and gets that penetration. And the guy that he got the run and the penetration on was Ryan Lilja. Lilja looked like he didn't expect Ngata to get into him. And Ngata is such a powerful guy. I mean, you know, he's kind of built low and he has big legs and arms, and he plays with great leverage. His pad is always below your pad level.
6'4" and 340. He was their top pick last year. Manning over the middle, and then it's off Clark's hands and incomplete after it was nearly intercepted by Ed Reed.
Yeah, this is what the Raven defense wanted to do to Peyton Manning. They wanted to move him off his spot. See, we have X marks the spot there, and he got to the spot. They moved him off his spot, but he's still successful. That's not the answer. You see the spot? Is he's going to go to that spot, but he's not going to stay on that spot. He keeps his feet alive all the time, keeps his eyes upfield all the time.
And like a horse ready to run, he's always up on his toes.
I mean, there's really no answer. You know, what do you do? How do you stop Peyton Manning? There's not an answer to that question.
Now Adai is going to outrun Bart Scott, and they'll mark it at, I believe, a spot where it'll be a first down. It will be.
Joseph Adai looks pretty good tonight. I thought last week against Jacksonville, he looked like he was beat up. He looked like the season was wearing on him, and somehow during the week he got freshened up. Where he's a lot healthier tonight than he was a week ago. I mean, this looks like the old Joseph Adai. He has the speed, the burst, and looks like he has a lot more life in his body.
Adai tonight with 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 1 receiving from the 43. And this time he gets knocked down in the backfield. First hit by Bart Scott. More on Adai. Here's Andrea.
Well, yeah, you pointing out that he looks good and he says he's feeling better, but he has been nursing all sorts of injuries this season. Now, last week he hurt his neck when he was hit on the top of his head, although he told me he never lost feeling or had any tingling. He's also been nursing a right shoulder injury and a fractured bone on the left side of his chest, which he said has been healing on his own, but has been painful. He's going to be trying to be smart about taking big hits.
Remember, he took a pop on the first play of the season. Kenton Keith comes in to spell him, former Canadian Football League player who has seen a lot of action. Fake to Keith. He stays in the block. That gives Manning a lot of time, and wide open is Gonzalez inside the 5, and another touchdown for the Colts.
That's the deep one that Anthony Gonzalez wanted. He talked to Peyton Manning this week about it, and I never get a deep pass. I never go deep. Peyton says that's a good thing. And then he says, I'm not going to throw it deep to him anyway. But he is wide open. I mean, look how far back the defensive back is on that side. And then he goes for an out stop. And you think that you can't do that. You can't make a double move on a guy that far back. That was David Pittman, who was a corner. And if you're going to play that far off, that's one of the reasons is that you don't have to go for that out move. You don't have to jump that.
57 yards. The extra point is good. 6:20 to play in the half. Indianapolis leading 37-7. And we can tell you the Sunday Night Football is being brought to you by Subway Restaurant. Subway Eat Fresh. By Circuit City. Circuit City makes it simple to shop, buy, and enjoy. It is simplicity guaranteed. By Lincoln, find the ultimate holiday gift this season. Visit your local Lincoln Mercury dealer today. And by Coors Light, cold activated bottle. When the mountains turn blue, your beer is cold. It's the Sports Legends Museum. A lot of Johnny Unitas paraphernalia there. Colts band and all of that. Of course, this was the Baltimore, the birthplace of Babe Ruth, and now the Ravens band. There's your Ravens marching band, all undercover, getting ready to perform at halftime. A lot of tradition. Of course, this is such a tough pill to swallow. We talked about the tradition of the team. And, of course, Baltimore hates Indianapolis. Then again, Cleveland hates Baltimore. But then again, Joni loves Chachi. And we love Paris in the springtime. But that's why stream of consciousness can be a very bad thing. But
you wonder how long that lives. You talk to the players, and they're not even sure about that anymore. I mean, they don't. They're the Indianapolis Colts, and they don't remember anything else, so they don't know anything else. And the Ravens are the same way. We were talking to Ray Lewis about that the other day, and really didn't understand what the heck we were talking about. What was that in the springtime?
We love Paris. But
I knew that would be something special.
Lamont Figures. And Figures, who ran the kickback for a touchdown, is down. They're going to mark it down to the 46-yard line. Kyle Bowler making his 41st start again, picked in the first round out of Cal in 03, 20 and 20. Passer rating a little below the league average. Completion percentage a little below the league average. But Homie's good, though. 15 and 6. Different story, obviously, on the road.
And a different story here now. They want to mix run and pass and play action and do all those things. And then you get down 37-7, and that all goes out the window.
Pass to the outside is hauled in by Wilcox, the tight end who gets the start in place of the injured tackled by Gary Brackett.
This would have been one of the big matchups here tonight. Jonathan Ogden against Robert Mathis, and I don't know that it's going to be much now with this score, but I've always felt Jonathan Ogden was one of the best offensive linemen in football and one of the best left tackles. He's been in the league 10 years. He's been in the Pro Bowl every year, and he's so big and strong. He's just hard to get around.
2nd and 9. Bowler swings it to the outside. That is intercepted at the 35-yard line by Kelvin Hayden. And Hayden will take it into Raven territory to the 46-yard line. Yikes.
Yeah, he was going for Mark Clayton out there, and now they know that they have to pass. I mean, when the score gets like this and you're 30 points down, play action pass isn't going to work. All you have to do is you're going to throw, so the defensive backs know you're going to throw, so they're playing pass. The pass rushers are playing pass, and you have such a cushion that now you can just jump on things the way Kelvin Hayden did there.
Hayden, an interception return in the Super Bowl for a touchdown. For Bowler, coming off a really good performance the other night against New England. He's 4 out of 7 for 10 yards tonight. Canton Keith is the running back. He'll carry. Not far. Question is now, John, what do you think for Manning? We'll see him maybe early in the second half, and then Sorgi?
That's what I would guess. I think that, Tony Dungy wouldn't even think of taking Peyton Manning out as long as, his protection is up and all those things are happening until the second half. I mean, that's something, and I used to always have a rule that I never thought about it until the fourth quarter, but I mean, if it keeps going like this, he may think about it in the third quarter. But there's no way that Tony Dungy's thinking about taking Peyton Manning out now in the first half.
That is Sorgi on the sideline. 2nd and 10. And this is Keith with some tough running to the 34. And, you talk about Manning and Favre and people like that, and you look at their elasticity and endurance and toughness and all of that, and it really, you think about the Ravens. They lost McNair to surgery this week. The other night, in one game in the first half, Rex Grossman goes out. Jason Campbell goes out. And then there are guys like Manning and Favre who just, they're like the Energizer Bunny.
And even Tom Brady, I mean, he hasn't played as long, but he doesn't get hurt either. And if you watch those guys on film, I mean, they're not only great quarterbacks, but I think one of the secrets is they don't keep their feet in the ground. They don't plant a lot. I mean, watch Peyton Manning when he throws and his feet are always moving. Brett Favre, when he throws, the ball comes out and his feet go backwards. And there's something to that, where they're not stepping in, planting, and staying planted.
We're talking about Manning, and he's always up on his toes. We made the analogy before. If you love horse racing, you go out and you watch the post parade in the paddock. A horse is up on his toes. He's ready.
Yeah, and Peyton Manning stays ready. And when he gets in the pocket, he's always ready for the ball to come out. So when a defender gets close, he's going to get rid of the ball before you get there.
Keith taken down to the line of scrimmage. Clock ticking down under 3 minutes to play in the opening half.
That's what I think a game does for this. Now for the Colts, I think it helps them, get a die out of there and, and play Kenton Keith more and just, keep a die fresh, because in this stretch here, that's going to be very important for them.
3rd and 7. Suggs gets back onside.
This drive's defense is crazy.
So Lewis trying to counter. And Keith's going to get dragged down by Anquan Barnes on the outside.
It was interesting talking to Ray Lewis about it the other day. He says, he said, you don't see this on the coach's film. I mean, the stuff that Peyton Manning does. You have to go watch it on the television copy. So he'll study, all those audibles, everything that he's doing at the line of scrimmage, his timing. He'll study off the TV copy.
2-minute warning. 37-7. Indianapolis.
Which style of beer do you prefer? Something more bitter?
Bob, Chris, and Keith in New York. Toyota halftime show coming up. Big days for Favre, Romo, Brady. They'll analyze the playoff picture as well. Coming up at the half. It's 4th down and 6. And Hunter Smith comes into punt. Puts the nose down. Puts a little backspin on it. And getting there, that's beautiful. It's like a volleyball tap as T.J. Rushing got there to make sure that the ball didn't go into the end zone. Perfect. Good coverage.
I'm surprised he just didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Because he can, if there's no receiver there, he can catch it. Look at that drop, though. That started with these Australian kickers, and now they're all doing it.
Trying to catch it.
He did try to catch it. Yeah.
Trying.
That's why he's on special teams. He's a bad catcher. Oh, that is ugly.
Yep.
When it goes right through your hands and hits you in the face.
It was beautiful the way he got down there. Was able to turn around, perfectly positioned.
Yeah. Got a good bounce on it.
4-yard line. They're going to give the ball to Smith. And we can tell you, too, that tonight's aerial coverage, as you look at downtown Baltimore, being brought to you by Gillette Clinical Strength. It's another town. Coach Sully used to love to say, it's what he put it in terms of a resurrection as Bowler nearly gets hit in the end zone for a safety. Mark Clayton. It's a renaissance. Downtown Baltimore undergoing a renaissance. Of course, those were the days when the mayor used to come by and buy him breakfast and give him all the information, and Howard loved that. So Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, whatever.
He would just get that free lunch, buy into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then that guy was his best friend, and that city was his favorite city.
That week, he could be bought. 3rd and 1. And Boulder's going to take it to the outside. I mean, the irony was he hated Walter O'Malley for taking the Dodgers out of Brooklyn. He hated Irsay for taking the Colts out of Baltimore. But he was okay with your man Al Davis taking the Raiders to Los Angeles because Al was his buddy too.
Yeah, Al was his buddy, and that was one of those things at that time that the Raiders, were trying to get a better stadium deal and couldn't. They did in L.A. and that didn't turn out, so they're back in Oakland and still trying to get a better stadium deal.
1st and 10. There's a flag on the field.
Full start, 85. Offense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Derek Mason. Here's Troy Smith. Troy Smith won the Heisman last year, and he's a rookie. He has been number 3 because of the fact McNair was 1 and Bowler was 2. Now McNair is gone, so it's conceivable we take a look at Troy Smith a year after he won the award, which Tim Tebow collected last night in New York for 2007.
Brian Billick was telling us a story the other day that when Steve McNair went on injured reserve and Troy Smith was moved up, and then Troy Smith said to him, does that mean if Kyle Bowler gets hurt that I play? Yeah, what else is there?
Yeah, that's Dan Klecko who's going to get the sack back at the 2-yard line.
You always assume that these guys know everything and understand the situation, but you have to explain. Now you're the backup. Now you're the second quarterback, and if anything happens, you have to be ready to play. And they do have a special game plan for him. I mean, if that were to happen, they have a different game plan for Troy Smith than for Kyle Bowler.
I hope he's better at reading his progressions on the field and off.
I hope Brian Billick has a better halftime speech than he had a pregame speech.
If it works, I'd love to hear what it is. Halftime, 37-7, the old Baltimore Colts.
Unlikely no matter what record they're going to have.
It's starting fast. Make sure we get up on them right away. Don't let them get the running game started.
Is this team for real? Well, it's week 13. We're still got the number 2 defense in the NFL.
We were champs last year. Was not a champion yet this year, so it's still one of our main goals, and we're continuing to work and push to get there again.
Back in Baltimore, Al Michaels, John Madden, Andrea Kramer, not under cover of darkness as we start the second half. The score, 37-7 Indianapolis. Peyton Manning, we're wondering about how long he will play, but he will at least begin the second half. The other night against Tom Brady, look at those numbers. Brady in the first half with a 38 rating, and tonight Manning with a rating that is next to perfect.
Yeah, I'll say this, his Raven defense didn't play well at all in the first half, but they're playing without their 2 corners. I mean, Samari Roll isn't here tonight. Chris McAllister, they both played against Brady, and this defense is kind of based on having 2 good corners.
Jamon Figures ran a kickoff back for a touchdown in the first half to the 39. Here's Andrea.
Well, Tony Dungy said this is actually a tough half because they want to run it, but he said the Ravens defense makes you throw it. Now, as for the starters, he said they'll be in the first couple of drives, and then he'll begin to substitute. As for the Ravens, expect to see Kyle Bowler go the rest of the way, Brian Billick said. Troy Smith only plays if Bowler gets hurt. Now, Billick said, we have to get back to work. He said, at this point, we just want to get one good drive going.
Any small victory. Here is Willis McGahee picking up 4. Second down and 6. The first half numbers will reflect the one-sidedness of this game. 255-57 in passing, and those 3 turnovers for the Ravens. I'm sorry, 57 total yards, 8 yards passing. Passing numbers 209-8. So Bowler has thrown, well, now he's thrown 8 passes for 17 yards, counting that last one. In the first half, he was averaging a little over 1 yard per pass.
You know, and this is the reason right here is, you know, if he was really going to have success, he'd have to throw on first and second down when Bob Sanders is up there. You know, when he's up there and he's going to come up like this and play linebacker, that's 8 men up, so you only have 3 deep. So you have to take advantage of that. And instead of taking advantage of that, they're running right into Bob Sanders. So then Bob Sanders comes up on first and second down. You run, they stop you. Now he plays off. You get in third and long, and that's tough to run. Yeah, I mean that's a tough passing situation.
Bob Sanders, very engaging guy. We were talking to him last night, and Bowler gets hit as he throws, and they are going to rule it a live ball and an Indianapolis ball. Keontae Dawson comes up with a ball, and it is ruled a fumble, as it was Jeff Charleston taking the spot of Robert Mathis, who comes in and creates the fumble. So unless there's a challenge and they win that, this will be a fumble and Indy's ball. Is it the empty hand? Sure is.
The ball coms out the back, and that is a fumble. But it's a thing that they play into. I mean, they run on first down, they run on second down, then they get third and long, and then the Colts are going to come after you. They're going to pass rush. They're going to play that cover 2 shell, and it's just a tough passing situation for Kyle Bowler.
Crowd looking for Billick to maybe challenge it, but he knows from upstairs it's the empty hand. He's not going to win that challenge.
That the Colts have a fullback in there. You don't see a lot of 2-backs, but as Tony Dungy says, he wants to run more this quarter.
Here's a die who's going to cut it back, and a die will take it to the 40-yard line on his 13th tote of the night. Good for 31 yards.
Well, they put a fullback in there, Luke Lawton, and he's going to be the lead blocker. So then instead of just running the zone play and the stretch play, they can now run lead plays and ISO plays with their fullback. So I think that this is a different type of running for the Colts. I mean, they don't do this a lot. They don't, have the 2-back in there. They don't have the fullback, being the lead, the ISO, and those kinds of plays normally.
2nd and 9, offensive signals, defensive signals. Manning off the fake. Manning is going to go deep. Manning is going to hit Gonzalez. Touchdown, Colts. He beats Corey Ivy on a 40-yard strike. Gonzalez gets into the end zone again. John talking about the fact Gonzalez says, when can I get some long balls? When will I get the deep passes? 2 tonight.
Right, and the score has something to do with that. And Corey Ivy playing corner, both the Raven corners out, and the Colts, whoever they send out there, is having their way against this defense. I mean, Corey Ivy, if you're up that tight on the guy, you have to bump him or you have to reroute him. You just can't let him get a free release and run right by you. I mean, not having their corners tonight has really killed this defense.
Manning had 4 touchdown passes last week in the win against Jacksonville. He has 4 tonight. 2 touchdown receptions for Gonzalez. Colts capitalize on another turnover. It's 44-7.
You're playing against more than just the best team in the NFL.
Ref called me a boy. Yeah, the number 110 called me a boy. I will be calling my agent in the morning and sending my complaint. Because I got a wife and 3 kids. Don't call me a boy on the field.
Frustration boiling over last week after the Monday night game when the Ravens had a chance to win. That Samari Roll, the shoulder injury, is out tonight. And of course, they did pay the price for those remarks with fines handed down by the league to 4 of them on figures to the 29-yard line. Just for the record, this much money will go to charity. That's where the fines go. Bart Scott, $25,000. And of course, he was the one who threw the flag into the stands. Got back-to-back personal fouls. Roll, $25,000. Uniform infraction, face mask infraction. McAllister and Mason were each fined $15,000. So the league wound up collecting $80,000, and Brian Billick was able to blow kisses to Rodney Harrison.
For free.
For free.
And Rodney Harrison got
He got fined right. And that pass is caught by Derek Mason up at the 46. His first grab of the night. Here's Andrea.
Well, you were talking about the Ravens fines. Now, the 4 guys who were fined this week will all appeal. And Chris McAllister just can't help himself. He continues to be outspoken. He told me, quote, "I didn't know the league took such pride in fining guys for speaking their minds." And he also said he thinks that the officials will call anything questionable against them if given the opportunity.
All right, that's $28.
And he's not playing tonight.
Here's McGahee.
I don't know you can find if you don't play, can you?
You can, sure.
Oh, just for talking?
I think, yeah.
You probably can.
No question.
Again, Chris McAllister and Samari Roll are very good players. I mean, they got fined. They had that stuff, but you can't minimize, when they're healthy, how much they mean to this defense. And I think we're seeing with them out of there, we're seeing the results of it.
2nd down and 8. McGahee does a little dancing. across the 50 to the 48-yard line. Talking about Bob Sanders before. Sanders, as a kid, growing up in Erie, Pennsylvania, he was a running back. And we asked him about, figuring his idol would be some hard-hitting defensive guy. We've got a personal foul here, face mask.
15-yard penalty.
On Indy. But he was saying that he was a running back, and he said his idol was Barry Sanders.
Right. I would have guessed, like you said, I would have guessed Ronnie Lott or someone like that. And, the way he plays. And he was a running back, wanted to be a running back, and went to Iowa and was almost a walk-on. Got a last scholarship and became a special teams guy and a heck of a defensive guy.
That penalty was against Jeff Charleston, the defensive end. The ball is now at the 33-yard line. Bowler throws deep, and it's caught at the 10-yard line by Mark Clayton, and he gets shoved out of bounds by Sanders at the 3-yard line. Then pats Bob on the helmet. But Bowler able to get it deep downfield, setting up a 1st and goal.
Yeah, he's going to come across here. You see they start with the 2 receivers on one side, so they end up on the other side of the field. They have a short, a medium, and a deep. And Kyle Bowler throws it to Mark Clayton. He's the middle guy. So they had a guy in behind him to run that corner off, and then they had a receiver short in front of him. So it was a 3-layered pattern on the left side.
29-yard gain. Now McGahee will go to the outside. I mean, Sanders is just everywhere. He's in the backfield, then he's covering deep. He was deep downfield. He made the tackle, and here he drags him down in the backfield again. What a player.
One time Tony Dungy called him an eraser. That if you have that guy up there and someone else makes a mistake or a guy doesn't stay in his lane or does something wrong, Bob Sanders will come up and make the tackle, and he'll erase the mistake for you. This is the thing. You see that defensive end can get up the field, and he's pass rushing, and he'll give you that inside hole, and then Bob Sanders takes it away.
2nd down and goal. 3-man rush. Bowler steps up, and then he gets taken down one-handed by Quinn Pitcock, the backup defensive tackle. They've got Dawson, Johnson, and Pitcock rotating at defensive tackle, all rookies.
Right, and the thing that they do, they all hustle. I mean, they all have speed, and they all hustle, and they can get going one direction on a pass rush, stop the pass rush, change, and go quickly in the other direction. I mean, they're as good as they are. This defensive group, this defensive line, at changing directions and chasing.
3rd down and goal. Shovel pass. McGahee. And he gets ripped down by Marlon Jackson. The quarterback comes up and stops him, so they get a 1st and goal. And now it'll be a 4th and goal. They'll go for it.
And that's where we're talking about this secondary now, and Marlon Jackson and Kelvin Hayden being better tacklers and more physical guys, and you just see that right there. And when you have those 2 safeties we've been talking about all night, then you put those 2 corners that are also physical and good tacklers. There's a lot of erasers out there.
Empty backfield for a wide. Over the middle. The pass is intercepted in the end zone. And once again, it's Brackett. And he brings it out past the 10. Out to the 19-yard line. Gary Brackett with another interception.
And like we said, that's the best thing that Gary Brackett does. We always think of a middle linebacker as stopping the run and making tackles. But this is the biggest part of it right now.
It's the final days of the Chevy Red Tag event.
So again, Marino getting chased in another area here. Games with 4 more touchdown passes. Favre is 2 behind. Manning tonight has done it for the 17th time, tying Johnny Unitas. And Jim Sorgi comes in for only the 2nd time this season with 8:10 to play in the 3rd, and by far the earliest that he's ever appeared in the game. He played against Carolina back in October, and it all starts ingloriously with a penalty here.
Right, and he brought a new center in with him too, because I see Jeff Saturday's out.
Full start, 74, offense. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
They got so flummoxed, they went, what is this? Who's playing?
I think this is what you call a mercy substitution. You know, call off Peyton Manning. I mean, he could have thrown 2 or 3 more touchdowns the way this game was going.
Actually, the 05 season, Sorgi did see first half action in the game. Indy had everything wrapped up and nothing to play for. And he did come in the first half. But this year, by far, in fact, only the second time he's appeared in the game this season, Sorgi will throw. And that is caught by Devin Ramashadu, who comes off the practice squad to make his first catch of the night.
Yeah, and the Colts are only carrying 3 wide receivers tonight. Ramashadu is the third. Of course, Reggie Wayne on one side, and Anthony Gonzalez on the other side. Gonzalez had a big night. And then they used Dallas Clark. I mean, he's a tight end, but a big part of the game, he'll be used as a wide receiver type. And, you know, if Reggie Wayne is the number 1 go-to guy, Dallas Clark would be the number 2 go-to guy.
Sorgi has to take a timeout halfway through the third quarter. All Colts.
Longest field goal, 63 yards. Most fumbles career, 161.
In 4 weeks, American Gladiators returns to NBC to host Hulk Hogan and Lila Ali. January the 6th right here on NBC, American Gladiators. 2nd down and 5. With Jim Sorgi taking a timeout, he had a full start. So you've got Luke Lawton and Clifton Dawson in the backfield behind Jim Sorgi. And they give the ball to Dawson. John, would you believe that Jim Sorgi has a higher career passer rating than Peyton Manning?
Are you giving me the choice of the two?
No, I'm telling you. I'm telling you, he has a, believe it or not, there are his numbers for his career, and it comes out to 98 something. So clearly there's a quarterback controversy in Indianapolis. It just has to be.
I'll tell you, it's probably the situations that he plays in. I mean, I mean, Peyton Manning is such a special quarterback, and I think Sorgi has a pretty good job playing behind him.
And Gonzalez gets bracketed. It's incomplete.
You see what happens when you take the starting quarterback out, then you have to run, and things don't go as smoothly, and this doesn't look like the same offense. I mean, that offense we watched with Peyton Manning, and obviously the score and the situation and the backups and all that, but the offense can unravel on you.
Well, you wonder how many reps Jim Sorgi takes in terms of percentage of reps during the course of a season.
I can tell you in practice, 0. I mean, the backup quarterbacks in the National Football League today get very few, if any, reps during the week.
Yamon Figures makes the fair catch at the 36-yard line. Baltimore, once the home of the Colts. You saw Johnny Unitas coming through that shot. 44-7, Indy. The Baltimore Ravens marching band.
I remember when all teams in the NFL, or most teams in the NFL, had marching bands.
50s, 60s, 37-yard line. Boulder throws, and that'll be enough for a first down. Mark Clayton making the catch. And a lot of bands in Johnny U's day. Art Donovan, one of the Baltimore Colts. Gino Marchetti through the 50s and early 60s. And, of course, Unitas' his favorite target. Ray Berry, Lenny Moore could run and catch. Jim Parker, Hall of Famer. John Mackey.
I think all those guys were in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah. All Hall of Famers. Willis McGahee takes it up to the 45-yard line. You know, when you think about, well, the Baltimore Colts, we were talking about it today, mentioned the overtime game in 58. I think without question, the Baltimore Colts played in the two most important games in the history of the National Football League. One being the overtime game against the Giants in 58, which really made the NFL very big in the consciousness of the country. And then Super Bowl III with Joe Namath and the Jets against the Baltimore Colts in Miami.
Right, I agree with you. That first game just made pro football a big thing, and then when Joe Namath and the Jets beat the Colts, that put us all on a level playing field, and then of course the merger, and then it all became one, and now you forget about the old AFL. Wow, that's throwing a knuckleball out of there.
Clayton makes the catch. You know, funny thing about both of those games, John, is that Weeb Eubank was the winning coach in both of them. Right. Coached the Colts in 58 and the Jets in Super Bowl III.
We were at a league meeting one time, and Weeb Eubank said, all I want is my fair advantage.
Here's McGahee. You know, it gets lost, obviously, from one generation to the next. And, you know, if you're under 50 years old, you're not going to remember any of this stuff. But I remember as a kid watching the 1958 game on black and white television, and it was breathtaking. I mean, all of a sudden, a game went to overtime. No game had ever gone to overtime.
Right, and then, you know, what do they call it, water cooler talk? I mean, then that became the water cooler talk, that game. And then everyone talked about it and then kept talking about it, and we're still talking about it today.
2nd and 3. He takes it to the 33-yard line.
You know, talking about the band and McGahee, he was saying the other day that when he was in high school, he wanted to be in the band. He didn't necessarily want to be in the football team, and he wanted to be a drummer in the high school band. And he said then he started playing football. The next thing he knows, he's at the University of Miami. The next thing he knows, he's playing with the Buffalo Bills and then the Ravens. But he wanted to be a drummer.
McGahee again. You know, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe Fred Godelli, who remembers all of this stuff, Mike Anderson, wasn't Mike Anderson in a band in high school too, who's their backup running backs? So you got two of the running backs. I mean, they'd have a heck of a band just in the locker room.
I'll tell you, the best running back that played in a band, though, wasn't either one of those guys, was Walter Payton.
Right.
Walter Payton, like his first 3 years in high school, I think he didn't play football, but he played in the band. You know, they're almost pantsing Willis McGahee out here. He almost doesn't have any clothes on below his waist. His socks, they just knocked his socks completely off.
Bowler to McGahee. Running to beat the band, takes it to the 20-yard line. Kenny Hurt confirms that Anderson was a drummer in his high school band. McGahee, of course, is the guy who played at the University of Miami, had that horrible injury in the Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State, but Buffalo still drafted him high up, and here was the play, and it took him a long time to recover from that. Had some okay years with Buffalo, kind of wore out his welcome there, was looking to get out, wanted a better deal, unless they made the deal with the Ravens. And this is Musa Smith now taking it to the 20-yard line.
And this is one of the things that Brian Billick said, I want to stay with the run, and I think he meant he wanted balance. He didn't mean to stay with the run when he was down 44-7. McGahee has some tough running in there. You know, talk about his socks being down. He'll probably get fined for that. But it's not fair.
Yeah.
He's getting knocked every way but loose. And next Friday, the NFL will probably come out and fine him.
Yeah, they do smack you for that. And this is Mark Clayton, who gets taken down at the 13-yard line, and the defensive back Melvin Bullock slower than getting up.
I'm not a big fan of that announcing the fines and announcing the fines on Friday, and then it's just a day or two before the game. So then the story becomes who was fined last week instead of the game. And I think that the NFL does itself a disfavor when they're announcing fines over the weekend, the day or two before the game.
Yeah, either announce it right away or just wait an extra couple of days and announce it the next week. Meanwhile, you got a mouth guard or a shin guard or a shoe or something. Derek Mason, it's a shoe. Close, mouth guard originally, but then I upgraded it to a shoe.
There's some
parts are coming loose. He got kicked from behind, but it was Jennings who stepped on the back of the shoe.
That just flew out there too, didn't it?
Yeah. Second down and 6. The ball is at the 9-yard line. Waning seconds of the quarter. It's caught. And McGahee's going to get stopped at the 5-yard line, but it'll be 3rd down and 2 when we start the 4th quarter from Baltimore. After 3, 44-7 Indianapolis Sunday Night Football. Resuming after these messages from your local NBC station.
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
In Baltimore, Al Michaels, John Madden, Andrew Kramer, Sunday Night Football. Indianapolis struck early and often. And that's a sight you don't see very much. Peyton Manning done for the night. Did a great job. 4 touchdowns, 249 yards. And we start with a 3rd and 2 as McGahee swings to the outside and can't pick up the first down. It'll be 4th down. Sunday Night Football brought to you by Nike Plus. Long Live Running by Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Now available on Disney DVD and on Blu-ray. And by Budweiser, reach for the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, the great American lager. Oh, yeah. Crab cakes. You had some this weekend, right, John?
You know, I'm not a crab cake guy. I'm not exactly sure what goes into them.
Cakes.
No, I mean, there's crab, you know that, but that other stuff, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not selective on that.
4th and 1, and the pass is caught on a slant, and it's DeVar Darling for the touchdown. And so the Raven offense gets into the end zone for the first time tonight. Their other score on the Yamon Figures kickoff return.
And you see Tim Jennings is off too far. He's a corner. He's looking in the backfield, and again, you have to get up and you have to take the inside away, or you have to bump him. But you can't play back there and let him have that free release and go to the inside. Isn't this defense a little different too when Bob Sanders isn't in there? We're talking about the offense different once it takes Peyton Manning. The defense is totally different defense when you take Bob Sanders out.
Well, Freeney not in there. Of course, he's gone for the season. Mathis out. Sanders resting, 2-point conversion. And that'll be intercepted, and there's nowhere to go with that. That's the end of the play once it's picked off. Freddie Keaho with the interception in the end zone. So the 2-point conversion fails. Indianapolis's lead, 44-13. He moved through the world by the Bourne Ultimatum on DVD and HD DVD Tuesday. By Levi's, the original. Find your fit at Levi.com. And by Phillips Norelco, Phillips Sense and Simplicity. Baltimore, Maryland. Chilly night, high 30s the temperature. Peyton Manning, even though he's not playing, it's like he just has to put that helmet on.
Well, because he always has to be ready in case something happens to Sorgi, and that's how he's thinking, I'm sure. I have to stay ready here. Something may happen to Sorgi, and I have to go back in. And when he's not thinking about that, he's probably thinking about next week. I mean, he's that kind of guy that the minute, he's out of there or over, he goes on, what do I have to do next to make me better, to make the team better, to make us better, to help us win?
Reese Lloyd kicking off. TJ rushing at the 2-yard line. Back up to the 23-yard line. And that's where Sorgi will go to work a minute into the 4th quarter. Indianapolis on its way to a mark of 11-2.
Isn't there a faster way you can do this? No.
7th consecutive game. The Ravens started the season 4-2 before it all began to come apart. Injuries, turnovers, and all the rest. Their last win was October the 7th when they eked out a 2-point win at San Francisco. Along the way, of course, they lost that game to Cleveland when they thought they had it won, but the officials conferred and ruled that the field goal by Dawson at the end was good, bringing both teams out onto the field again, and then the Browns would have won that one in overtime. From the 23 to begin this drive, Sorgi will hand the ball off, and that's a 2-yard gain. Coming out of the backfield is Clifton Dawson. And next week, Baltimore takes that 7-game losing streak to Miami. Everybody keeps waiting for the Dolphins to win a game. They're not going to beat New England. You know that. I don't know. Maybe they beat Baltimore.
Well, this is a game. I mean, Baltimore, had that tough one Monday night. Obviously, they didn't bounce back tonight. And, now the question is, can they bounce back next week? Because if they play the way they played tonight, Miami has a good chance to beat them.
Miami's last game of the season will be against Cincinnati, 2nd down and 8. Sorgi's going to swing it to the outside. Clifton Dawson to the 33-yard line. So Indy is able to withstand once again the loss of Marvin Harrison. Some mystery surrounding Harrison in Indianapolis because they announced it as a bruised knee 2 months ago. But clearly it's more than a bruise. There's a bursa sac involved as well, and Harrison practiced a little bit this week and then didn't practice on Thursday. And Tony Dungy said last night, well, maybe he's back next week, but we kind of heard that before.
And then why bring him back next week?
Yeah, 3rd and 1. Next week they go to Oakland. Andrew, you're always up on stuff like this. What do you know?
Well, I talked to Bill Polian, the Colts team president, before the game, and he likes to be the definitive word on injuries. Now, he said that Marvin Harrison has a sprained knee, which caused the bursa sac to swell and burst. He said the knee has healed and is as normal as a 35-year-old knee can be. He did run some routes on Wednesday, albeit not at full speed, and in fact, Peyton Manning told me he looked pretty good doing it. Now, Polian's main concern is Harrison's conditioning since he's been out almost 2 months. He said they have to be careful not to overload him so that he pulls something, but Polian was not optimistic that he would be ready to go next week. As you guys are alluding to, there's no need to rush him.
Hunter Smith is punt fielded at the 26-yard line, and that is Demond Figures. Thank you, Andrew. Tim Jennings is there for the tackle with 11:44 to go in the 4th quarter. Colts up by 31. You'll have Oprah Winfrey, Kelly Ripa, the Women of the View, Ellen DeGeneres, Conan O'Brien. Tonight show with Jay Leno this week. All week on NBC. 1st and 10 for Kyle Bowler and company from the 27-yard line. Bowler getting chased. And will slide a hold after a gain of close to 8 yards. They'll spot the ball up at the 35-yard line. Right now, in terms of the AFC, New England's already clinched a bye, and clearly they're on their way to a first round, well, not only a bye, but to have the #1 seed. There's Indy. Pittsburgh and San Diego would be your division winners at the moment, and if the season ended tonight, Jacksonville and Cleveland would be the wild cards, with the other teams right there, 7-6 and 6-7, still with a chance to get into postseason competition.
Tony Dungy was talking last night that their real goal is just to keep that #2 seed. And, he was looking at Pittsburgh and thought, geez, if Pittsburgh were to win today, and I guess if they were to tie, Pittsburgh would have the tiebreaker. But now with a 2-game difference, that's academic.
Right. And Indianapolis will clinch a playoff spot with a win tonight. They still won't have clinched the division, however. Jacksonville still has a shot to win the division, albeit a long shot. It'll take them into collapse and Jacksonville to keep winning. Kyle Bowler takes it up to the 38-yard line. So for Tony Dungy, we're joining some elite company right now. Dungy will be going to a postseason game for the 9th consecutive year. His last 3 in Tampa and his first 6 in Indianapolis.
You know what he does? He just has that even demeanor. I mean, you can look at Tony Dungy right now, not know if he's winning the game or losing the game. If the score is 44-13 or 10-7. I mean, Tony Dungy is always the same, which is great for players.
From the 38-yard line. Bowler launching one deep. He has a good arm, and that pass is incomplete, but the flag is thrown. It was number 25, Michael Coe, turned around and was looking right into the face of Derek Mason.
You don't expect to see that a pass interference, and then you look at the coach that has a pass interference on him. He's smiling.
25, defense. Ball will be placed at the spot of the foul. First down.
Riley.
You know, and that's what happens. Sometimes these guys who don't play a lot, they, get in this situation and they kind of panic. I mean, Coe just never turned around. I mean, he never got turned around. He never looked for the ball. So he just goes right into the receiver. And, of course, that's a penalty. I mean, you can, look back at the ball and then make a play on the ball. But you can't not look at the ball and just run in to Derek Mason.
We're talking about Mike Anderson in the band before, so he comes into the game. They fake it to him, and Bowler goes deep down the left side, and that's swatted away. Tim Jennings goes high in the air with that right arm to knock it away from what would have been a touchdown catch by Derek Mason. Good play by Jennings.
Yeah, we just showed Michael Coe on the other side that didn't play the ball. Now here's a guy that does play the ball. He's looking at the ball, gets that right hand up there and swats it out. That's a heck of a play. Look at the height. I was talking about defensive backs, and the guy's only 5'9", he's 5'10", he's this, but when you can jump like that, who cares what you are?
Really list him at 5'8", and 185, second year out of Georgia, second round draft choice last season. 2nd and 10 over the middle. That is hauled in by Dan Wilcox, the tight end, who gets planted by Rocky Boyman. 3rd and 3. Subject of Tony Dungy. Best coaching records with one team, Vince Lombardi, Don Shula with Baltimore. And then our man is right there, John, winning 3 out of every 4 games. And Tony Dungy right now would be 70-22. But number 1 on that list is George Seifert, who succeeded Bill Walsh with the 49ers, won 2 Super Bowls, and that passes off the fingertips of Quinn Sipniewski, the tight end.
And you know what one thing all those coaches had in common was? They all had great players. That it's still, you can coach, you can be a good coach, you can manage, you can do those kinds of things, but it's still a game of players, and you need great players. And I know I had great players. Tony Dungy has great players. Don Shula had great players. George Seifert had great players. Vince Lombardi had great players. Well, you need that. If you don't have that, it's awfully tough.
I thought you were going to say they don't like crab cakes. We've got to get back to that. On 4th and 3, they'll convert here as Mark Clayton makes the catch and takes it to the 12-yard line for a first down.
Yeah, because in life you'll find out there's not many things that I don't like.
Correct.
Yeah, and why that comes in, I think it's a shellfish thing, too. I'm not a shellfish.
Oh, that's right. You did tell me about swordfish once. I'll never forget.
Oh, no. You never eat swordfish. That's what swordfish. I'm talking about shellfish, like, crab and shrimp and, I don't know, mussels and stuff like that. I'm not a big guy on that stuff. I like stuff that has bolts.
What about fluke? Here is Mike Anderson taking the ball to the 8-yard line. You hang around with John enough. I can't even tell you what John once told me about swordfish, but I know
I shouldn't be talking about swordfish. I mean,
you can end the industry tonight.
Well, I know it.
But you know commercial fishermen well, right?
Yeah, right. And they say the swordfish is worse than and the best is sole. Dover sole is the purest fish there is. And it's right below that, whatever that is, and then Dover sole's right there, and that's called the fisherman's fish.
On 2nd and 5, Bowler gets knocked down, was trying to get it away, and then Darrell Reed, number 95, comes in for a sack as Bowler was going backwards and then wound up hitting the turf.
Yeah, Darrell Reed's going to come off the right side here, and you see he just takes an inside move. He starts up the field, and then you know that Bowler is one of those spot quarterbacks too, so you want to get into that pocket. So you stop going upfield, make that swim move to the inside, and once you take that step to the inside, then you're right on Bowler.
He was smacked across the face mask as well on the way down. 3rd down and 14 now from the 18-yard line. And Bowler's pass is caught at the 9-yard line. This time it is Mason who has extended his club record tonight. He's made 88 catches for the season. He had owned the club record, which we established last year. The one-time Tennessee Titan sets up a 4th and 6.
These fans below us here are yelling, go, go, go.
A lot of them already have.
Isn't it something when you're losing like that, the head coach is always by himself?
Yeah. And Bowler will get taken down, and they turn the ball over on downs. That's Ramon Guzman, a rookie out of Buffalo. A lot of guys seeing action who normally wouldn't tonight. Getting some experience in at the Ravens' expense. Line next week. Todd Collins, meanwhile, came off the bench after the Jason Campbell injury to lead Washington to the win over Chicago, keeping their playoff hopes alive. It's Washington and the Giants next Sunday night. 1st and 10 now from the 6-yard line. Indianapolis with Jim Sorgi taking over in the middle of the 3rd quarter with the game well in hand. Peyton Manning with the rest of the night off. DeJuan Landry makes the tackle here. Let's go back, John, and take a look at the night for Bob Sanders.
You know, he was so dominant against the run. I mean, that's what the Colts felt that they had to do. You know, they had to come in, make them one-dimensional, and then put the game in the hands of Kyle Bowler, make him beat him with a pass, and that's exactly what they did. But Bob Sanders was all over the place. I mean, he was there on every run. He was there on passes, and when he got there, he was devastating. He is a great player. And he's one, if you have a choice and you're playing defense, you want him in your group.
Well, they weren't kidding when they said, well, you know, we need Bob Sanders. He only played in 4 games last year, and, you know, you kept talking about, or they kept talking about Indianapolis. We really miss this guy. And, you know, you'd say to yourself, well, yeah, but can one guy make that much of a difference? And then you see him, and you realize he can.
You know, he's so reckless. I mean, he doesn't worry about, you know, his body at all. And I talked to Ron Meeks about it last night, you know, and he said that the only thing he can do is you can't tell him take it easy in a game or don't hit like that. That's the way you play. But he said you can tell him in practice, you know, don't leave it on the practice field. And he said if there's anything that Bob Sanders has learned, it's that.
3rd and 4 from the 12. Move the chains as Gonzalez makes the catch. And you know, John, we talked a little bit to Sanders and to Meeks last night about the fact that, especially with a guy like Dwight Freeney out and how important Freeney is, it makes it that much more important now for Sanders to stay healthy.
Right, and I think that the other thing that Ron Meeks said is maybe, you know, if they don't get the same type of pressure, they're going to have to start blitzing more, and maybe blitzing Bob Sanders and let him be a pass rusher also. You know, they don't like to do that. I mean, they've always been a 4-man rush team, but if you lose your rushers, you may have to change your defensive concept.
Sorgi hands the ball off to Clifford Dawson. Jim Sorgi, 4th year. It's a cushy job. You back up Peyton Manning. You don't get dirty very often. Played his college football at Wisconsin. They picked him in the 6th round in 04.
Yeah, but if you're a competitor, you want to play. I mean, I would never want a guy on my team that would be happy not playing. And I know that you have to accept it. And, you know, if you're behind Peyton Manning, but you always have to be ready. And You don't want anything to happen to him, but somehow in life, if you're a player, you want to play, which I think Troy Smith is going to do, by the way, the next time the Ravens get the ball.
We'll see the Heisman Trophy winner from 06. And Clifton Dawson does not get out of the backfield on that play. The NFC playoff picture. Tony Romo did it again today, led Dallas from behind. So the Cowboys are 12-1 and Green Bay solidly in that second spot at 11-2. And then Seattle would be third at the moment, leading the West. Tampa Bay fourth. The Giants and Minnesota would be in the wild card spots, with Washington, Arizona, Detroit, and New Orleans playing tomorrow night. They could go to 6 and 7, still in the hunt. 3rd and 7 now from the 25-yard line. And that pass incomplete.
Yeah, in that last break we had, I saw Brian Billick come over and talk to Troy Smith, and then I saw, he went over some plays with him, and now Troy Smith is up there with his helmet on. So we're going to see, as you say, the Heisman Trophy winner from last year. And when we talked to Brian Billick about it the other day, he said the only way he would be in there if there were an injury to Bowler, but I don't think that he was thinking of being down 44-13 in the fourth quarter either.
Hunter Smith with a very poor kick that winds up almost in the stands. And at least Troy Smith's first opportunity will come on the plus side of the 50-yard line. But a big night for the Colts, 44-13.
Nissan engine.
Power rankings, go to NBCSports.com. You can also vote for the Pro Bowl at NFL.com. Voting will end Tuesday at noon. Troy Smith won the Heisman last year, Ohio State, 5th round pick. So he's the 174th pick in this year's NFL draft. This is his NFL debut. He did play in preseason, played in 3 games. We actually saw him play a little bit in the game we did against the Giants here in August. And he starts by handing the ball off to the veteran Mike Anderson, former Denver Bronco, and he takes it to the 39-yard line. So 1 handoff and then a 2-minute warning. And he's gotten his feet wet. Troy Smith comes to the sidelines. 2-minute warning in Baltimore. 44-13 Indianapolis.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC. You know, Mac, there are a lot of people looking to buy.
Sirius Satellite Radio postgame report coming up. Horse trailer player of the game and fast forward with Bob and the gang from New York. By the way, for the record, that was not the 2-minute warning. They actually called a timeout. Just some wishful thinking on my part. So the 2-minute warning still to come. Troy Smith.
This better be a pass if they took a timeout to do it, huh?
I would think. And here comes his first NFL pass. And he guns it to the end zone, and it's incomplete. He had a chance to wind up with a touchdown on his first ever pass. Yamon Figures was there, and he was free, but the pass doesn't make the connection. 3rd down.
I remember when we saw him in the preseason, we were impressed with him because of this. I mean, he can move in the pocket, buy time, and he has a pretty strong arm. I mean, that should have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good read. He put the ball right where it had to be. And I figured just couldn't get to it. But that one, I mean, there was no way that the Colt defenders were going to get to it.
Go figure. 3rd down and 8. And that's caught. So there's his first completion. And Mark Clayton will take the ball to the 22-yard line.
Brought some life to this crowd that's left of it here.
Yes, he has. The Troy Smith Marching and Chowder Society. 2-minute warning.
Base football with Al and John.
Osi Umenyiora, he does it again.
Unbelievable.
Next week. New York hosts another division rival on Sunday night.
Sunday prime time. Yeah, a Sunday prime time 'cause it's time to shine.
That's a week from tonight. at Giant Stadium in the Meadowlands. Meanwhile, Brian Billick watching his young quarterback, Troy Smith, the Heisman winner, make his NFL debut. The ball is at the 22-yard line. I'm looking back to some of the things he did while he was playing in Columbus, accepting the Heisman a year ago this weekend. There he was in action against the Texas Longhorns, and Anthony Gonzalez, who's playing a big role on the other side tonight, one of his primary receivers, in junior, now with the Miami Dolphins. So he knows what it's like to play with guys who can catch the ball. And here's Mike Anderson catching the ball and getting tripped up by Tim Jennings.
I remember the thing that I was impressed with him in the preseason was that you could just tell, you know, that I mean, he was a rookie and he was just starting to play pro football and all that stuff, but he knows how to play the game. You know, that maybe he's not tall enough, and, you know, not the perfect type quarterback, but this guy does know how to play football.
2nd and 5. On the run, throws, that'll be caught. And Matt Willis, a rookie from UCLA, comes off the practice squad on November 14th to make the catch. First down.
It's just stuff like that, the play breaks down, you get outside, you keep looking upfield, you find the guy and make a play. And these are the kinds of things that he can do. He's looking in the middle, he feels a pass rush coming straight up the middle, gets to the outside, starts to run, but before he gets to the line of scrimmage, look, he's still looking to pass it. He's looking downfield, then he finds his receiver. I'm impressed by him in preseason, like I said, and I'm impressed now that I just have the feeling that he has a feel for the game. I know how to play this game. I may not be the perfect size or the perfect quarterback, but I know how to play it. There's part of me that says if I were the Ravens, I'd just let him play the rest of the year. And see exactly what I have.
Yeah, well, then you're basically saying Bowler's not the guy, period.
Maybe I would say that, yes. I mean, I don't think Bowler is the guy long range, long term, no.
From the 6-yard line, that pass is knocked down. Again, McNair is still a Raven, but the question is, I mean, Steve's just been battered and banged up and bruised for many years. I mean, McNair has had any number of surgeries. He's been a regular in the operating room and just had his left shoulder operated upon this week. And the question is, does McNair come back? Does Bowler come back? Does Smith get a chance?
Yeah, well, they have contracts for next year, and, they gave Bowler a 1-year extension, so they're probably going to be there, but I still think they need another guy, is what I'm saying.
2nd and goal. Here's Smith is going to step out, and Smith is going to run for his first NFL touchdown. He's going to spike the ball, and then he thinks, you know what, I'll just keep it.
He probably thought, we've had so many fines on this team that I'm not going to get one here. I'm going to have my own little celebration, and I'm going to keep the football of my first score. I think you're right. If you spike that or you throw it someplace, you may never see it again.
Right. He's thinking to himself, he was ready to spike, and then no. I've got a Heisman, and I got to put that next to the Heisman.
The trophy. This is it.
Matt Stover for the point after. And it makes it 44-20.
We see the things that he can do. Again, the pocket breaks down, and he has the moves to run with the ball. The play before, we saw where the pocket broke down. He had a rush, and he got to the outside, made the throw, and then he comes right back and makes a run for a touchdown. I know that this is garbage time and all that stuff, but everything I have seen about this kid, I mean, in practice and training camp, in the games, in the preseason game, in this game, I like.
Well, he's going to get a few more reps this week, I would think, if nothing else.
Yeah, and by now, I mean, he's been here long enough now to have the, complete game plan and playbook. Brian Billick said that, that he just gave him kind of a short list game plan if he had to go in there. But I think now that he's the second, he'll probably get, some reps in practice and, get more in the game plan. And I don't know. I mean, you're in this situation. Why not? Why not?
Well, a lot of Heisman Trophy quarterbacks get drafted high, but as you look at Stover ready to kick off, some other guys, I mean, for instance, Jason White of Oklahoma won the Heisman as a quarterback in '03, wasn't drafted. Charlie Ward was undrafted in '93, but Ward was going to play basketball anyway, which he did with the Knicks. Gino Torretta won in the 7th round in '92. Ty Detmer, 9th round in '92. Doug Flutie in the 11th round. Won the Heisman back in '84. Onside kick, and that will be taken by Charleston at the 41-yard line. And a couple of kneel downs will end it. So if he does start a game, there's Brian Billick's record with his starting quarterbacks, and Brian took over here back in 1999. Of course, when he made his mark as the offensive coordinator at Minnesota, one Randall Cunningham had a pretty phenomenal year in '98.
Right, it's the record, but it's also his problem. He's never gotten the guy, and you need the Manning, you need the Brady, you need the Favre, you need the Romo, you need that guy that is going to be your quarterback over a long period of time. Like that guy right there. That's not bad. You look at Peyton Manning, it's been 10 years already. Doesn't it seem like he just came into the league 3 or 4 years ago?
Well, look, and I've known Archie for a long time, and we'd go down to New Orleans and we would do games. And then Archie would tell us about, his son. Remember when Peyton was like in junior high, and then he's in high school and he's a star. And then he goes to Mississippi, and you're right. Then you can't believe we've been hearing about Peyton Manning since he was in the 9th grade.
Right, and then when you were finished hearing about Peyton, now.
Well, I said Mississippi, Tennessee, yeah.
Tennessee, yeah. Now we got Eli coming around. And Eli is a great player, and Eli is going to, be a college player and a #1 draft choice and all that.
Yeah, that's where Mississippi sneaked in. I'm already doing a promo for next week. Horse Trailer Player of the Game will be coming up. We'll have that announcement for you. We've already caucused, but we can't announce it. We have an embargo until the other side of the commercial. Bob, Chris, and Tiki from New York. Fast forward to week 15. Indianapolis makes it a rout. 44-20. 11-2 are the Colts. Back after this.
This week, it's all